Well, there have been growing reports on an imminent cabinet reshuffle by President Jacob Zuma. Is this likely to happen? If so, one position that may take centre stage is that of the finance minister. But let's not speculate. We're joined by political analyst Karima Brown. We'll let her speculate. Karima, good morning.
Well, I'm not going to be the Sangoma.
Well, let's get to how likely is it that we are going to have a cabinet reshuffle, and specifically related to Nkosazana Dlamini Zuma and this post, because the word is that COPE is now claiming that that Nkosazana Dlamini Zuma will likely replace Pravin Gordhan as finance minister. How likely is that scenario?
Well, I think that's all in the realm of speculation. And like I said, I'm not in the business of being a Sangoma. But let's look at what cabinet reshuffles are occasioned by. It is an opportunity for the president to look at his performing ministers, and those who are underperforming can, of course, be replaced. It's also a political tool that the president can use to reorganize the deck chairs, if you like. If you are a president like President Jacob Zuma, who's being challenged inside your party, as he has been last year, the NEC had that discussion on his fitness to hold office. He's being challenged in the caucus in parliament. He's being challenged in cabinet. He's in fact at odds with cabinet around specific things, particularly as it relates to the issue of the treasury and the finance minister. You were reading there the fake Twitter accounts on the finance minister, and you see the war between the finance minister and treasury and the Gupta family and Oakbay not stopping, in fact intensifying, with Oakbay now delivering an answering affidavit. But President Zuma knows that the markets punished him when he put Des Van Rooyen there the last time. 16 billion rand wiped off the stock exchange. So there is a lot of speculation that he wants to change, but it's very risky, and that the changes will come elsewhere. And of course, we've got Nkosazana Dlamini Zuma returning after she serves only one term as AU chair at the end of January, and having to come home. President Zuma, as you know, has the prerogative to choose. Traditionally, in political terms, he has to consult the ruling party, the governing party. He has to consult the allies. He can, of course, be imperial about it, but the backlash, considering the battle that he's on, will be very high. So he's got to weigh his risks. And as you know, President Zuma is a tactician of note. He'll be looking at the long game. He'll be looking and weighing his options. But he might not be the only person on whose timetable, or rather his own timetable might not be the driving factor. He's got business people and a whole range of individuals that have benefited from him being the president that might urge him to do other things. And then, of course, the ANC is going to a leadership race, rather leadership contest. So there's a lot of real reasons why the president might use the opportunity to reshuffle.
Well, you might imagine that, yes, he would want to. It's not completely unremoved that he would want to put Nkosazana Dlamini Zuma into some sort of position. I mean, what is the feeling about her past as minister? She's been Minister of Home Affairs, Foreign Affairs as well. Would she or wouldn't she make a good minister? I mean, we know she didn't fare all that well in the AU. People have differing opinions about it. The common one being that she wasn't great as AU Commission chair. As a minister, anywhere, how would she fare?
Look, she's an old hand. She served all three democratic presidents, in fact, various presidents. She served under President Mandela, under President Mbeki, and of course became the AU chair, largely with President Jacob Zuma leading the charge for her to become the AU chair, outwitting the Francophone African candidate at the time, and becoming an extension, if you like, of the Zuma administration's international relations policy, on the continent. So there's no doubt in my mind, Yuveka, that she can and has done, a reasonable job. She's not necessarily an exceptional minister, but then the bar is very low in South Africa. We have people like Faith Mutambi, who is in, communications. If you look at the SABC debacle alone, you can see that minister is clearly, not able to run that ministry. And there are a whole range range of other ministers. But I think Nkosazana, it's generally whether you are in the Zuma faction or not, there's a recognition of her leadership qualities, her ability to lead, and in fact to become the president of the African National Congress. My view, of course, is, will she advance a female perspective and a female agenda and challenge patriarchy, if you like? We haven't seen any evidence of that yet. But to come back to the question of reshuffling, there's also a very big push from supporters of Jacob Zuma that he surrounds himself with people in the cabinet that are loyal to him, that will implement his program. As I said earlier, he's been at odds with cabinet, particularly over, for example, the question of the banks and how they relate to Oak Bay. That fight playing itself out in the courts. The finance minister, Pravin Gordhan, expected to respond on Friday, the 27th. And of course, there, the gloves are off. No one is even talking about the fact that this is a matter around Treasury. Pravin Gordhan and Oak Bay saying this is a political battle.
So the Guptas have been mentioned here, according to the sources and the person who says that this decision, if it happens, is driven by the ANC Women's League, the Youth League, the Premier League, and their funders, the Guptas.
Well, the reason why the Guptas is so central, Iveka, is because Nkosazana Jonas, the Deputy Finance Minister, said that he was called to the Guptas compound in Saxonwold and offered an executive position in return for doing their bidding. So it is not just COPE that's speculating. This is a member of President Zuma's, series of ministers and deputy ministers that made this claim. And of course, he's not the first person to have, I've said it, Fikile Mbalula once said it. He's now pulled it back because he's hedging his bets in a different kind of way. But the Guptas have been accused by leading members of the ANC, both inside the exec and in the state. Remember Themba Maseko, at the time the head of government communications, told that he was called by Atul Gupta and told that he will have to do a particular, or rather Ajay Gupta, and he will have to do a particular thing in terms of government advertising. So the Guptas isn't just a stick that President Zuma's detractors would like to beat him with. There's actual examples of how they've used their proximity to the president. And just the president hasn't done anything to dispel that, of course.
And the specifics of this, Karima, I mean, you might want to doubt COPE, but to say that, they learned that Pravin Gordhan will take over the position of tourism minister from Derek Hanekom, and Hanekom would become an ordinary backbench in parliament. We know Derek Hanekom was quite outspoken a couple of months ago as well, saying what he thought should happen to the president and this whole stuff.
Right. At the time we were looking at what President Zuma's moves would be, and of course he's always had the card of a cabinet reshuffle, but it comes with political cost attached to it. He is not unassailable. He's being challenged in the party. He is playing such a huge role in, campaigning for Nkosazana Dlamini Zuma to replace him. So he's got to move very carefully. The South African Communist Party, who have a lot of ministers in the cabinet, have already, raised the stakes. Over the weekend, Blade Nzimande said that the alliance cannot function in the way that it has. Many people are reading that as a warning to Jacob Zuma. And if you move against any of the SACP members who serve in cabinet, you might have a situation where, they say they don't want to participate in the government. And of course, that will create a huge crisis. President Zuma would probably also want to test the waters, Uveka, and see how the markets respond and South Africans respond. So a very high risk move one way or the other for President Zuma. And we're all waiting with bated breath. And as I said, I'm not going to be that Sangoma. I'm not going to tell you.
Absolutely. Thanks very much. Independent political analyst Karima Brown. We're back with more news after a short break.